What's up, everybody? This is Miles Turner, the Indiana Pacers, and listen to the Paceroos Podcast. Be sure to follow at Paceroos on Twitter.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Paceroos Podcast, the only Aussie NBA podcast with a bias towards our beloved Indiana Pacers. My name's Adam, and I'm your host today. I'm joined once again, as always, by Alex.
Yep, very exciting times. Pacers basketball is back, and the Paceroos are back as well.
And Justin.
Hey guys, yeah, extremely excited. Like Alex said, love having basketball back, love tuning into NBA League Pass, and 2 games, 2 wins.
And how good was that intro, guys?
Yeah, fantastic. Got to shout out Miles and his crew as well for getting that done for us. That's amazing.
Yeah, pretty awesome to get a video of the future Pacers All-Star from Melbourne podcast in Australia. That's amazing. So thank you, Miles, from this team.
Yeah, massive thank you to Miles and his team. Also, massive thank you. Take this opportunity to thank the 414 Media House for hosting our podcast as well. We're ready for a really big season, and it's obviously underscored by Miles jumping on board for that intro, which is absolutely huge for us, and it just really propels us to a big year. So pressure's on now, guys. Now that Miles has endorsed us, time for a big year, and we start off with preseason. So we had 2 games in the NBA India games this week. Indiana and Sacramento played a back-to-back set in Mumbai. Indiana Pacers were victorious in both games. We saw a lot of points scored in both games. We saw some new faces for both teams. And today we're going to go around and talk about each game and one particular point that we got from each of these opening 2 games. So, Alex, I'll kick off with you. What was one key point you took from game 1?
Yeah, obviously both games the offense was probably a lot higher than it will be during the season. But for me, TJ Warren was the standout. 30 points, 5 rebounds in game 1, and we all saw the shot he hit. He actually has struggled in the clutch throughout his career, so I think for him to hit that shot, even if it is pre-season game, I think that's huge. He's a confidence guy, just like Miles. So I think if he can build off that, he's going to be absolutely huge for us this season.
5 for 6 from three-point range. I think with TJ Warren, we obviously wanted to see him take more threes, and he's already shown that in preseason he's going to try and do that for this team. We hope that that's going to continue. Justin, how did you see TJ Warren's first game as an Indiana Pacer?
Yeah, awesome. So good to see that. Definitely from a newcomer. It's not like a player we all know. And essentially we got him for cash. So really good. I think I saw Mark Monolith on Twitter saying we've upgraded our position at small forward, which is a big call. But I couldn't be more impressed. There was nothing I liked seeing more than him drop 30 in big buckets down the stretch.
We love you, Boyan, if you're listening. Look, I agree that there's the ability for us to be upgraded at small forward. I don't necessarily think we know that yet. I think it's going to take a little while to be able to understand whether that is the case. It's a very, very big call to make after 2 preseason games, effectively. Having said that, it was a really good scoring performance, and we know that we need a key scorer with Vic out, and TJ was always going to potentially be that guy.
Well, it really was between him and Lamb to replace Bojan. Bojan's the guy that took that 20 points per game after Oladipo went out. So I think if Warren, even if he doesn't average 20, if he averages 17, 18 with Lamb averaging around the same, I think that's going to be absolutely huge.
Yeah, I really think Warren's got a chance to average over 20, at least in the first couple of months of the season. We know our schedule's probably pretty light to kick off the season as well, which helps. And I think that they're going to lean on Warren a lot in the early parts, especially if he continues to show the range that he showed in the first game. The man that got him that amazing pass late in the game was Malcolm Brogdon. Justin, you're a massive fan of his first outing as well.
Yeah, I couldn't be more impressed with Brogdon. I think I said in episode 1 or 2 of the podcast that he could potentially be the best point guard we've had since Mark Jackson. I'm probably going to stand by that. It's one preseason game or 2, but game 1 dropped 15 points, 14 assists, 6 rebounds, so near a triple-double in 34 minutes. We just very rarely have point guards with that kind of stat line with, double-digit points, double-digit assists. I'm really impressed with his court awareness. I didn't kind of realize how good he was in Milwaukee. Maybe it was different lineup, different teammates, and having the Greek Freak kind of, push him in the corner a bit. But you mentioned that, that cross-court pass to Warren. Brogdon just seems like he's very savvy. He looks like he's slow, but he still beats his man to the hoop and then dishes the ball. Yeah, apart from Warren, I'm most excited watching Brogdon play.
Yeah, 100%. I think we all know he's a great defender, and with Oladipo, they have the potential to be the best backcourt defensively in the NBA. But a lot of people, at least Pacers fans, were questioning his playmaking ability and whether or not he could actually run a team. It is two preseason games, but he averaged 9.5 assists over the two, so I don't think that'll be an issue at all.
I also think that obviously one of the big things about Malcolm coming into this team was that he was, potential for the 50-40-90 sort of season. And looking at game one, which we are at the moment, he shot 5 of 13, but just looking at the type of shots that he was getting a lot of the time, he was kind of used as the release valve, the pressure release valve at the end of the shot clock. So he was getting a lot of heaves from quite deep. He was taking a lot of tough shots late in the shot clock where the offense wasn't really clicking. So I wouldn't take a lot of stock into those shooting numbers in game one, because I feel like a lot of that was under considerable pressure compared to what it would be in a regular season game. But his passing was crisp. I mean, clearly he's developed really good chemistry with his teammates already, which is tough to do in a couple of weeks of camp, but it speaks to his professionalism. It speaks to, his passing ability and his ability, as we say, to run a team, which is why we got him in the door and why we were so readily available to give up a first round pick in trading to be able to acquire his services for the next 4 seasons. Obviously though, TJ Warren and Malcolm Brogdon were probably the two highlights for the Pacers. Probably the overall highlight for me was the offense. And obviously putting up 132 points in the win, albeit in 5 periods instead of 4. But I think it can be a little misleading. I think we can sort of jump to conclusions a little bit because we did play about 11 guys in the game. We distributed the shots obviously pretty evenly. The high shot taker was TJ Warren with 18. There were quite a lot of threes shot. Everyone that should have attempted a couple of threes did. So I'd like to see that continue throughout the rest of the preseason. I don't want to see this be sort of a once-off as we start to use a really deep bench, and I want to see us continue to score well up above 110. Looking at last season, when we scored 110 points or more, we were 30 wins and 4 losses. So clearly scoring at a high level is going to lead to success for this team.
Oh, 100%. The Pacers have always been good defensively. This team, although they gave up a lot of points in these 2 games, they all work it out. We've still got Dan Burke. Nate McMillan's still a great defensive coach. But on the 3-point shooting as well, we attempted 29 in the first game, or 27 in the first game, and then 29 in the second game, which is an upgrade from 25 last season. We were actually second last. So second last in the entire league in 3-point attempts. So I think if we can bump that up to 30, 31, I think that's going to be absolutely huge in terms of upgrading the offense.
Yeah, I think one of the best things about game one was it really speaks to the character about the team. You're down 20 points playing overseas in a preseason game. Some starters aren't getting huge minutes. The team easily could have just given up. Down 20, they could have blown out to a 30-point loss, and people were starting to think the season's going to go negatively. So to come back, I think we're down 7 with a minute left. Most teams just give up on that. See the Pacers, get consistent stops, hit big buckets. That's what you want out of a preseason game. Who are going to be the players that are going to step up in big moments? And we had Warren and Brogdon, and even Turner played well. That's what you want out of a preseason game.
What did you guys think of? It's probably a good time to talk about the defense of the team. We saw it was a typical preseason game in a lot of ways. There were errant passes. There were silly turnovers because players didn't know where each other were going to be. What did you think of the defense, Justin?
Yeah, well, Kings are a high-scoring team. To give up 131 to them in overtime in game one, then 106 in game two, it's not great. I think, like Alex mentioned, having Dan Burke and Nate McMillan, they're probably just testing a few things, seeing what players should go in each position, see what's working, see what's not. Some players didn't have a great game individually defensively, but that's what the preseason's for. They're there to learn. I tweeted something earlier. I think we're kind of understating that. I think Miles Turner's the best shot blocker in the NBA. Like, from where he's drafted, I think he got 5 blocks in game 2. He's just a beast down low, and I'm so excited to see him and Sabonis defensively.
And speaking of down low, Alex, you were really impressed by the rebounding of the Pacers in the 2 games.
Yeah, 100%. They absolutely demolished the Kings on the boards. actually out-rebounded them 98-65 over the 2 games. And I think that's the benefit of having the 2 big fellas, Domas at the 4 and then Miles at the 5. A lot of questions whether they'll work out defensively, but I was actually really impressed with Domas's defense on the perimeter as well. He's struggled in the past guarding quicker 4s and guys that can take off the dribble bit. I was impressed with it.
Headband Domas. Everyone likes that. Yeah. Do you reckon that'll be a new trend throughout the year?
You know what? I'm a fan. I am a fan. It looks a bit weird on him at first, but I hope he keeps it for the whole season, especially if he's dunking on everyone with it. So.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick mention as well. I'm not sure what you two guys think about it. I was thinking about it earlier today. I think Miles has done a magnificent job of... He's nearly become the face of this franchise with Oladipo out. You think everything he's done with Team USA, he's doing all the media overseas, they're, NBA commissioners interviewing him. The Pacers are really pushing Miles. I know Vic's still the leader of the team and he will be when he gets back, but I just wanted to make a quick mention of, how great this offseason's been with Miles. I think if you ask the average NBA fan, who do you think of first when you think of the Pacers, I think Miles Turner's name is going to be brought up a lot more.
Yeah, the Team USA exposure that he got as a starting center of that team. I mean, looking into that team before it started playing, you had Lopez in there, you had Plumlee. No one was really sure who was going to start before that team started, but they started with Miles and they stuck with Miles throughout the tournament. So that was huge for him. He's been on all the billboards. He's been doing all the media. He's clearly been the face of this team, which I guess is unsurprising because he's the longest tenured guy on the team and he just signed a large extension. He's clearly going to be here for the next 4 seasons. So why not get a guy who's, 22, 23 out there as the face of your franchise in the absence of the guy who's on The Masked Singer?
Yeah. Even if he denies that he's on it, yeah.
It's definitely Vic.
But I think that's huge for Miles. He's talked about in the past. I remember when Paul George got traded, he wanted to be that guy. Yeah. He wanted to be the leader. So I think this is great for him. And I'm glad that he's taking it in stride as well, A lot of players don't want to be that leader, especially as he's 23 years old. I think people forget that. Yes, he's the longest tenured Pacers, but he is still far from his prime. So this is great. I think a leadership role is great for him.
Yeah, I think the only misstep that he's had across the entire off-season was that Gobert moment.
Yeah, definitely.
So clearly Gobert either got into his head or he got into his own head about the whole Gobert.
I think he just built it up. He built it up in his head. And I mean, we've talked about it in the past, but Miles is a confidence player. So when he got shooked in that first quarter, that was game over for him.
He's a nice guy. His persona. He's not a trash talker.
I don't think I've ever seen him. Or maybe that Bradley Beal, I think he had some words with last season, but that's the only time I've ever seen him. That's the only time I've ever seen him talk any kind of trash, to be honest.
Yeah, I think this season's going to be a huge test for him as he probably gets a little bit more attention before and after games. He's probably going to get a lot more media attention when we lose, especially. So there's going to be a lot more scrutiny put on him, a lot more hard questions coming from the media that would usually go to Vic. And Vic being such a positive guy and Miles being such a positive guy, I can definitely see him succeeding and thriving in the role of leader in Vic's absence. And it's funny sort of looking at a 23-year-old guy as your team's leader, especially when you've just acquired guys that are far superior in age to him and experience level. But clearly the keys of this franchise are in the hands of Miles Turner, and there's a good reason for that. He's a really good role model. He does a lot of work for the community. He's, above all else, an incredible basketball player. So, there's not much that he has done wrong so far, and I can't see him doing anything wrong from here on in.
I don't think you can explain, how much his stardom's grown than saying, he's doing introductions for our podcast. So that's how much he's grown and how much his stardom's grown overseas as well.
100% agree, guys. So we'll move on to Game 2. We touched on it a little bit, but I think the overarching theme of Game 2 was the consistency across the board with, not only the starters but the bench. We went into Game 2 assuming that Miles and Domas were going to sit out the game. That's what the Pacers sort of planned to do prior to the Indian trip. But with Goga being out for both games, with TJ Leaf being out for both games, they kind of didn't have a choice. They were boxed into playing Miles and Domas. They only played 19 minutes each. They played less than half the game. So there was a lot of leaning on Jakar Sampson, Alize Johnson, your man Brimmer. So there was a lot of leaning on those bench guys, but they certainly delivered, Alex.
Yeah, they were fantastic. I mean, 8 guys in double figures shows you it was just an all-round effort. And even guys like TJ McConnell, I thought he was outstanding. He's going to take that Corey Joseph type role and make it his own. I think he almost had a triple-double, actually. Alize Johnson was fantastic. Sumner only played 13 minutes, but 10 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. So all the young guys really stood up, and I thought that was great for their confidence.
Yeah, I think an interesting little nugget from that was I think McMillan subbed in TJ McConnell before Holiday, which is going to be always a... yeah, it's always going to be an interesting little storyline of the year.
I think they can play together, but I think Sumner's playing too well not to have him in the lineup. So
yeah, Sumner needs court time. I've always rated him. Interesting as well, Doug McDermott. I don't know where he fits in with this team right now. He can be a good shooter, but I know Nate McMillan said he's got the green light this year, but I don't really know where he fits in. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Brian Bowen, got his first basket, ex-Sydney Kings player here in Australia. So congratulations to him.
So we can kind of claim him as the first Australian pacer.
Yeah.
Kinda, by proxy. Look, I wanted to touch on the holidays. There was it was a really nice sequence where Aaron drove and dished to his brother in the corner. Great to see. Obviously, there's going to be chemistry between guys that are brothers, but good to see those guys out there. I think all three of us are a fan of Justin Holiday, and we want to see him play good minutes off the bench for the Pacers, and there's the opportunity for him to do so. The only question mark we have is obviously TJ versus Aaron. TJ, obviously, really impressive. He dives for loose balls. He plays really hard on both ends. You know what you're going to get with TJ McConnell. But we all know that in terms of a ceiling and in terms of getting this team to where it could possibly be this season and next, we need Aaron Holiday to be, a premier bench scorer. We need him to, average in the teens and start to be in a conversation for a Sixth Man of the Year role, if not this season, but next.
Yeah, I think Justin Holiday reminds me of an ex-pacer, Damian Wilkins, and also to a lesser extent, James Posey. Just that leader who's going to come on, hit some big threes, maybe defend at a high level. Won't put up too much high-volume shots, but for me, Holiday just reminded me of Wilkins when he was with the Pacers. I think he was only with us for a year, but just that steady head we need on the court, and maybe someone who's going to bring in that leadership that we need as well.
I was actually going to compare Justin Holiday to Marquise Daniels.
Oh, I remember him. Yeah,
way back in the day. So
similar hair.
Yeah, similar hair. Good defenders. Can hit a three. With the Pacers, I think 2006, 2009. So a bit of a blast from the past. A little bit of a weird comparison. So I think the other key thing to take from both games is just around overall the defense for this team is going to take a little while to get to a place where we're all sort of used to Indiana's defense being, really. We've clearly got a couple of players in who are offense-first players or used to being offense-first players. Nate's talked about how defense is a priority this offseason, as it is with every other offseason for the Pacers. But ultimately, we need this defense to come together sooner rather than later. We gave up a lot of points in 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, the Kings are a high-octane offense. They're one of the best in the league at it. But yeah, you're right. I think Jeremy Lamb and TJ Warren are those guys you're talking about. They're probably more focused on offense, especially coming from, teams that aren't that great and don't defend very well. Devin Booker, but and the Suns. Sorry, I just can't. Ricky Rubio. I'm sorry, but Suns fans. I don't know if you guys are on Pacers Twitter. I'm sure everyone listening is as well. But I thought it was absolutely hilarious. Off topic, but TJ Warren, all the Pacers fans were talking about it, giving absolute crap to Suns fans, and they were clapping back saying Warren's not a playmaker and all this, but he actually impressed me as a playmaker.
There is a storm brewing between Pacers Twitter and Suns Twitter right now.
I think that's the biggest beef on the internet right now.
yeah, I'd agree.
Look, they can have Rubio. This makes it also a 4for4 podcast that Rubio's name's been mentioned.
I think I will mention him in every podcast. Don't worry about
that. But yeah, with defensively, I think the easy things to say once Oladipo comes back, we got a hell of a starting lineup defensively. Brogdon, Oladipo, we're going with Warren or Lamb, but then Sabonis and Turner. That is a really good defensive lineup. My concerns are with the bench once that bench comes on. I've said it before as well, that my bench production will be a make or break for the Pacers this season. Is that where we're going to, give up runs, lose leads, stuff like that? Or can we have a bench that comes in and builds us a lead or gets a lead?
And that's where a guy like Justin Holiday is so important.
And even TJ as well. They're both elite defenders. So, yes, you can sub the young guys in. They're probably more offense if you want to come back quickly. But I think especially in the playoffs, guys like Holiday and TJ are going to be absolutely huge.
But our interior bench defense starts and ends with Goga.
Yes, I know. I wanted him to play those preseason games.
We need to see him play, man. Goga,
yeah, let him loose. I don't care about his ankle sprain. We get him on the court. I really hope he plays 1 or 2 preseason games because I think he needs to. I don't think we just want to throw him in as a backup in a real NBA game. I'd love, obviously don't play him unhealthy, but I think Pacer fans are really wanting to see him. There's been good interaction about him. I think Miles said, he's got all the tools to be a good player in this league. I'm just really excited to see him play.
There's a lot of hype around him right now from around Pacers Twitter. Obviously, he's a little bit of a cult figure.
Yeah, he's a fan favorite already. I think I don't even think he means to be as funny as he is. He just absolutely is hilarious, though.
He'll be someone in the future that will have his own fan section.
Yeah, 100%. He'll take over at some point. What would we call Goga's fan section?
I'm sure he'll decide on that.
Goga's greenhouse.
Goga's greenhouse.
Yeah.
So, guys, I think 2 successful games. We got to see, some deep bench players, and I think that's where, we've got 2 more, I think, preseason games to go, both at home. We've got one against Chicago. We've got one against Minnesota. So it'll be interesting to see how the roster is filled out because you've got guys like Jakar Sampson, you've got guys like Brimmer, you've got Edmund Sumner, who obviously is on a guaranteed deal, but at the same time he's at the end of the bench at the moment. You've got Alizé, you've got Brian Bowen. You've got some players there that are probably playing for significant roles in this bench to be the 8th or 9th man on this team. Without Victor. So who do you see as probably taking the opportunity over the next 2 games and solidifying it? We had, Alizé was our leading scorer in game 2. Do you see him as a guy that could, secure that bench role, or do you see it sort of being business as usual with TJ Leaf when he comes back?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think Alizé will keep his spot. He will definitely make the rotation. I'm more intrigued about that point guard battle. You've got Sumner, Holiday, and McConnell. Obviously, all 3 of them are going to stay on the team, but who's going to get the minutes? I think that's really interesting. I don't know if Sampson will make the team. I know, Alex, you said McMillan loves him, but don't know if he'll make our final roster for myself. Brimmer, I'm not too sure he'll make our final roster either. I hope Bowen, just because he was a ex-Australian player, he does make the roster, and he can fill a need for us. He'd come in and blow out and put some he can score. He's very talented, so I do hope we keep him. But I'm extremely intrigued what Nate McMillan does with Sumner, Holiday, and McConnell.
What do you want him to do with Sumner, Holiday, and McConnell?
I know you 2 are real big fans of Aaron Holiday. I'm probably a bit more grounded on him. From what I've seen, I'm more impressed with Sumner than Holiday, and I don't know if a lot of Pacer fans would agree with me, but I think when he's come into games, I think there was a game against Atlanta last year when it was kind of a dead rubber game that Sumner dominated. He can take it to the rack. Sometimes I think Holiday's shot selection can be a bit iffy. Yeah. So for me personally, I'm not sure if anyone would agree, but I would want Sumner to get minutes over Holiday.
So you'd go with TJ McConnell, Edmund Sumner as the backcourt off the bench. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would. And Holiday could spend some time at the 2. He's a bit more of a shooter than a playmaker to me. I just really like Sumner's aggressiveness. I know, Sumner doesn't pass the rock that much as well. I don't know if it's just a vendetta I've got against Holiday or what, but I do like him. But I think, with Larry Bird just saying he's untradeable, it just ruffled my feathers a bit.
I'm going to disagree. I think we haven't seen enough out of Sumner so far. I think at the moment Sumner's appeared tentative. He's appeared a little bit overwhelmed in the games that I've seen him. That's been my perception of how he's played. Whereas Holiday, I think he's not afraid of the moment. I think he's willing to take big shots and miss them and continue to take them, which...
That's very true.
That's the guy that you want. That's the guy that I want coming off the bench and trying to get my team back into a position of, of prominence. I think protecting a lead, maybe, McConnell and Sumner are a good lead protection sort of backcourt. But for me, if I'm 10 down in the first quarter against a good team that's got a shaky bench, then I want Aaron Holiday to light them up and I want him to get us back in the game. So that's where I see Aaron Holiday's role being,
And that's where I think it's a lot, we mentioned in episode 2, it's situational game, what McMillan should do, yeah. And that's why it's good debate for all of us, because it's not black and white, he's better, he should play. It's all who'll be playing, who's the defense matching up on, what are the scores, and what time of the game.
Yeah, 100%. That's the beauty of having 3 guards that can play, backup minutes, starting minutes. It doesn't really matter. Even Doug McDermott, Justin Holiday, they can play guard spots as well. So personally, I agree, Adam. I think I would probably give the 6-man minutes to Aaron. But if you are protecting a lead, especially against the better teams with better backup guards like Lou Will or someone like that, I think you need a defensive-minded guy like McConnell and a level-headed guy as well like him. So yeah, it is situational.
Yeah, agree. I think there's a couple of different battles that we've mentioned. We've mentioned that 3 sort of guard battle for the bench spots. We've mentioned Justin Holiday potentially versus Doug McDermott off the bench, which I think it's fair to say that we all lean probably towards Justin Holiday more than we do towards Doug McDermott, although McDermott definitely has a place as a shooter in a lineup that's maybe missing a fair bit of shooting, and that's probably where it comes to the next sort of battle on the bench that I'd like to talk about, which is TJ Leaf versus Alize Johnson. I think, they're potentially the 2 backup power forwards that we've got on our team. Alize's shown really good progress in the games in India, and he showed good progress in Summer League. TJ Leaf's got a lot of raps on him. There's a lot of people talking him up. I'm a TJ Leaf skeptic. I'm a lifelong TJ Leaf skeptic.
I think we all are, yeah.
So I don't really know how to tackle the fact that he's getting a lot of press or positive press with the team. I'm sort of at the stage where I believe it when I see it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that was something that stood out for me on Media Day, was how many people were saying TJ Leaf. He's going to be the guy. He's going to get a lot of minutes, and he did show signs last year. Hopefully, if his 3-point shot comes back, I think he can be a decent backup 4. But yeah, like you said, I think I need to see it first before I say anything else.
Yeah, I look at it from the other standpoint. If I knew Alize Johnson personally, I'd be saying that backup spot's yours. Though you should be fighting for that spot. There's no reason why TJ Leaf should be playing over you. Alize Johnson puts up insane rebound numbers with the Mad Ants.
Especially for his height as well. He's an undersized big.
He goes and gets it.
He's incredible.
Game 1, he got 17 points. Sorry, Game 2, he got 17 points, 8 rebounds. TJ Leaf hasn't seen any court time yet due to injury. But, yeah, there's no reason why Alize can't overtake him in the rotation. I think by February, we'll get a big sense of where TJ Leaf's NBA career stands. Will he be a backup for us? Will he be trade bait? Or will he be in the league after this year?
Yeah, I think it's a make or break year for him. I think if he does well, then he can secure a long-term extension with the Pacers beyond this season, and he can, be a backup power forward for the future. But if for some reason he displays similar traits to the previous seasons, then it's going to be a tough road for him over the next couple of years. There's going to be, end of bench spots. There's going to be potentially overseas stops for a guy like that. And I want to see him succeed. Don't get me wrong. I just haven't seen what I'd like to see out of TJ Leaf so far that would make me think that he's going to be a threat out there that makes me think, when I see him out there, makes me think, I'm so glad TJ Leaf's out there. We've got this. So that's what I want to see out of him this year. I want to see him succeed, but I just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. I mean, especially Alize, if he can start hitting that 3 ball, I know he hit 2. I don't know if you guys saw it, but he hit 1 from the wing and then 1 in the corner. If he can start knocking those down, I think there's no question he's the backup 4, yeah.
Yeah, it's over. I think there's a lot of competition happening. Probably the only position that has no competition at the bench is the backup centre position, which is obviously Goga's to lose. But in the case that the Goga is injured, then we've seen Brimmer in these couple of India games. There's a fair chance then he'll probably make the extended squad. Are there any other options in terms of small ball lineups?
Yeah, I was just about to mention Jakar Sampson. So they've been trialling him at the 4 in these 2 preseason games, and I mean, yeah, it is preseason, but I think he's looked fantastic. 15 points, 4 boards, and his defense is actually what impressed me the most. I think. I mean, I saw his highlights from last year. He only played 4 games, but he can put up numbers on offense. But I didn't know he was that good defensively. So if he's there, if he makes the roster, that's another guy that could be playing those backup 4 minutes, especially if Leaf or Goga are injured.
And you look at, the division rivals that we've got. Look at Milwaukee that plays Lopez and stretches the floor. You look at Chicago who plays Carter and Markkanen. They potentially stretch the floor as well. So you could potentially, if Goga is injured, if we don't have as many options at centre, you could get away with smaller lineups against those teams in spot minutes. Not, long term. That's where potentially Miles and Domas are going to have to split centre minutes if we don't have Goga, because our front court is pretty thin compared to previous years. But it's good to know that we have a few options around. Cool. So 2 really interesting preseason games that have allowed us to sort of dissect them and get a look for and feel for how the Pacers potentially are going to look come the start of the season proper. Next up, big shout out to everyone involved in the Paceroos first inaugural fantasy league. We had our draft, and I'd just like to call out the pick of the draft in the 11th round. One Justin picked Goga Bitadze.
Yes, it was a way too early pick. I was laughing when I made it, but everyone's picking.
I was laughing when you made it.
Yeah, with fantasy drafts, I'm usually the only Pacer fan there, so I always get Pacer fans that are Pacer players that are still. No one knows how good Miles Turner is and things like that. But all you guys were clued on picking Turner and Oladipo and Lamb and Brogdon. I was 2 picks away from getting, so I was like, bugger this. I need a Pacers player. I'm going to get my boy Goga. So if he's listening, ball out for me this year, mate.
We'll see if we can get him on.
Oh, that would be incredible. Yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Really good show today. Thank you once again to Miles Turner for the intro. Really excited about the season proper. We'll see you next week again. Once we've played those other 2 preseason games, we'll dissect those and we'll have a look at the season proper.
And I hear rumours there might be a special guest.
Oh, we might be able to get a special guest on. We're not going to promise anything, but stay tuned. We've had success in the past with special guests with large Twitter followings, so we'll see if we can get one more with a large Twitter following. Thanks very much for listening to the Paceroos, guys, and we'll see you next time.